All right, are we ready? Let me hear you say, yeah. Our guaranteed income, oh yeah. Did you get hype for guaranteed income? Yes. All right, it is one of my favorite subjects, and we have a fantastic panel here to talk about guaranteed income, and this is the session of the day, and this will be the one that closes us out before we go to Grace by Nia. So you're going to earn your supper. All right. Are we doing good? All right, this is it. This is the time. Come on in. Ray, did you want to say something before? Okay, all right. So really, how's everybody feeling? Round of applause if you're feeling good. All right. Did you hear some pretty fantastic stuff today? I know I did. Yes. I want to hear really quickly if you got a one-word something. You okay? All right. One word, something that you want to share that you are feeling right now today. Raise your hand real quick. I want to hear a voice. Okay, I'm coming to you. All right. Tell everybody, what are you feeling about this?
Affirmed.
Ooh, powerful word. Affirmed. Anybody else feeling affirmed? Yes. You got one too? You gonna make me work today. Oh, you got one? Okay.
Optimism.
You feeling affirmed. Optimism. Joelle, what you got? All right. No, yes you did. Y'all like, let's see if she can do it. You know, I just want to see this outfit just say that. Go ahead.
Absolutely. I'm feeling alive.
All right. Affirmed. Alive. These are the words that we are feeling today. And this is the perfect energy to take it into this next panel. So I'm going to turn it over to Elijah to lead this panel on guaranteed income. Y'all ready? Give him a round of applause, please. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction. My name is Elijah Miller. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to be helping to moderate this conversation on guaranteed income and why it is more critical than ever for our Black families and entrepreneurs to build wealth. Just briefly, I am the Director of Policy in Boston's Office of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion. Most of my work today is really just lifting up our incredible panel. We've got Akerele, who helped co-produce a documentary on guaranteed income. Jessica Ridge, the partnership director at Up Together, who has been helping to lead an incredible community-based organization that invests in families first, and they fight so that policy also invests in families first. We've got Tiffany Bradley, Director of Public Engagement with Mayors for a Guaranteed Income, really a national coalition that has at least or nearly 100 municipalities across the country that have already advanced or are working towards implementing a guaranteed income pilot. And Mayor Sumbul Siddiqui, the mayor of the city of Cambridge. I'm sure everybody here would be excited to do follow-up afterwards. There's going to be so much discussion about how we do this now after we talk about guaranteed income. But we're going to start by setting the stage with, I think, a clip from Aurielle's work, It's Basic, that is gonna get us feeling some type of way about guaranteed income. So if we could get that clip rolling, that would be phenomenal.
As a country, we make it so hard. You know, I think about guaranteed income, and I think it's the most direct way to say, we see you, we see that you need help, and we trust you. I really view government and our role in government to make people's lives better. But the reality is there's just increasing inequality in our city. It's become a tale of two cities. Cambridge is home to Harvard and MIT, but many of our residents are in need.
When you are coming from poverty, you're stuck. There's nothing you can do unless you can afford to pay rent. I was homeless for 7 years. I didn't have the regular childhood. I had to survive. I was homeless, but I was always working. My first job, I was working at the State House. They didn't know I was homeless. Nobody cares. I feel like my past, it haunts me. I am a domestic violence survivor. I'm still healing from that. Yeah, so I used to really, I used to hate my life. I really do believe that women stay in toxic relationships because they cannot afford to leave their husbands. I don't want to depend on anybody. I found the flyer saying you can receive $500 a month. I couldn't believe it. Being in this pilot program makes it so I'm able to go to school. I got a scholarship, but I still have to pay for commuting. It takes 2 hours to get to school every day, and it's about $40 a day. My national exam is today. If I pass this test, I'm gonna be certified to draw people's blood professionally. It is for her. I have my little one that watches me. She's driving me. I really want to show her the steps you need to take to be a successful woman.
And push up, push off. I zip along Haywood Avenue and turn left onto Pepper Street.
Give yourself time to just breathe. Just take a moment to take a breath and look at the word before you even say it. And I want to show my daughter, you will eventually see the results of your hard work, because there's always gonna be opportunities out there. You just have to keep on going. Don't give up. When I can see my results clearly, I can see what my score is. So I failed, but I can take it again in 30 days. I still feel confident. I feel like I can get it this next time. If it really matters to you, you just dust yourself off and try again.
I had a job at Harvard teaching history and social thought. I had been familiar with the concept of basic income or guaranteed income from my studies. It's an idea that's had support on the right as well as on the left.
The proposal for a negative income tax is a proposal to help poor people by giving them money, which is what they need, rather than as now, by requiring them to come before a governmental official, detail all their assets and their liabilities, and be told that you may spend X dollars on rent, Y dollars on food, etc., and then be given a handout.
In the 60s, that was a moment of prosperity. There was an assumption of endless growth. And we learned that that's not true.
Here is a dollar such as you earned, spent, or saved in 1960. And here is a quarter, a dime, and a penny. 36 cents. That's what this 1960 dollar is worth today. I will propose budget cuts in virtually every department of government.
These cuts to the budget undermine the ability of many social programs to succeed on their own terms. It's the familiar strategy of starving the programs and then accusing them of failure.
Do you have other food in the house?
I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
I don't think it's been a deliberate effort to create poverty, but the idea that it's not society's responsibility to take care of children is sort of a strange idea. If I were to just sum up what basic income is, it's a kind of exemplary form of care.
How's your Band-Aid? Misha, how's your boo-boo? Show me. No.
Receiving the money has certainly not lessened my initiative to work. After my time at Harvard, I moved into literary magazine publishing and was surprisingly successful.
That's a boy.
At that point, it became apparent that my son had a significant disability. He had been diagnosed with autism.
Should we put some of this on? Yes?
He needs constant supervision. He can't be with groups of other children in a daycare.
Okay. Yeah. How are you feeling? Good?
At school, he has what they call a 1-to-2, 1 teacher, 2 students. You know, that's the environment in which he's safest.
Misha.
I'm sure you're all filled with many thoughts and feelings, as I am from watching that. I'm sure our panel is as well. And we're going to start this conversation by talking about what this clip makes us feel like. Perhaps the wonderful mayor of Cambridge would like to start.
Sure. First, thank you all for having me here. It's really an honor to be here, so thank you to the organizers. I think I watch these clips and I think about just the work of the last, many years. And I just think we have so much more to do as a society and as a country. We see what's happening right now in our federal government and the attack on low-income families. It's really unconscionable. And so it makes me think, why are we doing that? Like, why are there individuals in our government really trying not to help people? So it just makes me think we just have so much more work to do.
Jessica, gut feelings, reactions?
Yeah, so many feelings and reactions. In the clip, Portia talks, I'm not going to remember her exact words, but something about wanting her daughter to see her work hard and that working hard means something. And to the mayor's point, that's not how it is in this country. People are working so hard, multiple jobs. It's not valued. And I just have this recent percolation that what if we got beyond this idea that we just want people to have their basic needs met to actually being invested in for their talent and their genius. And you see 2 families here who are trying to do it. They're working so hard and it's not being valued. It's not being invested in. And I imagine just from their brief words, they have so much that they want to give and so much that we could all receive by that if we invested in them.
Yeah, thank you again all for having me here and for presenting this clip, because I've spent so much time with it, have watched it so many times, and still it hits me and it infuriates me too, just knowing how incredible Portia and John, who are the 2 recipients of the Cambridge Rise program here in Cambridge, and just, yeah, the fact that this narrative of just trying to meet your basic needs and how people have to work. There are role models and there are caregivers who are supporting their families, and most people are working 1 to 2 to 3 jobs and still can't make ends meet. And they're giving so much to other folks and not having the time to give to their own families. And so seeing how the guaranteed income helped with that, the ability to invest back in themselves, back into their families, and in turn in their communities was really amazing to see. But this clip is really, really special and kind of showing that. But
I'll just add that it was very emotional. I see myself in Portia, and I know so many other women who see themselves in Portia. But what's really important for this film is to show so many different backgrounds and people and shared experiences when we're talking about guaranteed income. Because in order for you to push for policy and hopefully eventually pass a guaranteed income on a federal level, you need to have connections, right? Human connections, and people need to see themselves in the film. So even though you see Portia, you see John, but there are other people in this film that had different stories. And I'm just hoping that when we, Mayors for Guaranteed Income, we launched a national tour in June utilizing this film. And so we're hosting these screenings across the country. We had one in Cambridge last week with Mayor Siddiqui and her team, which was really wonderful. But the overall goal is to keep this conversation going and making sure people see the shared experiences of different people and not just what we perceive as what poverty looks like.
Thank you all for that. I'll just say it's incredibly frustrating for me to see brilliant people like Portia and John and all the people in this room today, the people in our city who are trying to build lives, build dreams, build the next generation, build themselves a pathway into society. And one of the things they lack is just money. And I love the title, It's Basic. The problems you saw are very complicated. Histories of domestic violence, histories, I'm sure, of discrimination, challenges with disabilities, but one solution can help with a lot of those problems: money. I want to continue by making sure that we all recognize that this documentary was following the lives of some residents, I believe, in Cambridge, participating in the Cambridge Rise pilot. This was the city of Cambridge's initial program to see how guaranteed income could solve for the problems experienced by residents that are struggling in their city. You saw a great exposition where parts of Cambridge are doing very well, but not everyone in Cambridge is feeling the wealth and prosperity coming out of their great institutions and great industries. Mayor Siddiqui, if you could talk a little bit about how you came to the notion that guaranteed income was right for families struggling in Cambridge.
Sure. I think having grown up in Cambridge, I was born in Pakistan, and we immigrated to Cambridge, eventually to Cambridge, because we had access to affordable housing. So I grew up in affordable housing in the city. My mom and dad, they both have worked multiple jobs over the years. They're in their 70s and they're still working. My mom's a cashier at a Star Market, local supermarket. My dad's a shipping clerk at a department store downtown. So for me, I am very in touch with, the working poor, right? I'm really in touch with residents who live in affordable housing. I go often to, and I've done a lot of listening circles. I've really, ever since I've been elected, I know it's very important to, not just during election season, go to folks, but really be in touch with folks about actually what are your needs? How can we actually help you? And so I think when I think about when COVID hit, the city was quickly mobilizing. I think COVID taught us a lot of things. It taught us that, we don't have to study everything. We really don't, right? Like, we can do stuff, right? Like, we knew kids didn't have internet at home before the pandemic. No one was doing anything. right? All you got was, it's just too complicated to get people internet, you know? And then pandemic hit and you're doing it. And so we had come up with a fund. We had raised about $5 million through the Mayor's Disaster Relief Fund for COVID, and that was going directly to residents. And, you know, at that time, the number one ask was, you know, Mayor Siddiqui, this is great, it's one time, but can this be more consistent? And this is around the time that, former Mayor Michael Tubbs had founded Mayors for Guaranteed Income. I had knew some of the history. Jessica will talk about the amazing work and history of Up Together. Again, not really new concepts, but again, getting more traction in the last, many years. And so I joined Mayors for Guaranteed Income, and I thought it was a scam at first. I was like, what? You know, you're going to give us $500,000 to come up with a pilot? And but it was all real. And so we were able to come up with a pilot with, a lot of key stakeholders, key nonprofits, our community foundation in Cambridge, and raise money pretty quickly to do a pilot for 130 single caretakers. And we focused on single caretakers because the average median salary is about $29,000 for a single mother, and compared to the 191 citywide median salary. And so we had some good data that we used. And so that's how kind of the nuts and bolts of everything that came together. Cambridge is a really diverse city, over 80 languages. It's a city that has so much wealth. So much wealth. We're only 6.6 miles. We're super small. And so people will just think, oh, Harvard, MIT, innovation, these big houses. And they don't, you can really gloss over the fact that we do have so much rising income inequality, right? And we have so many families who are food insecure, who are living paycheck to paycheck, who just need some more stability, right? As soon as you get a new job, your rent goes up, you get something in the mail, hey, you may owe us more rent, right? And it's just this constant struggle. And so having a guaranteed income is just a really practical way for families to get ahead. But yeah, I'll stop there as far as how we came up with it, and how we decided to expand it. So.
Well, I'm about to hit you with an expansion question, but I want to say, we don't. Maybe it's because we don't have enough of it in the U.S., but there's a reason why a social safety net is called a net, because it catches you when you're falling. Because if you fall through the net, you're stuck. I think that comes out in this documentary, is that when you're in poverty, you're stuck. You're in financial, emotional distress constantly, especially if you have to take care of children. And I think it's almost immeasurable to look at a parent like Portia and John and think about what $500 a month can mean to alleviating that constant panic of having to take care of your children and make sure that their world doesn't collapse around them when they're still so young. Mayor Siddiqui, what did you see in the pilot that gave you the conviction to double down and say, we're going to expand Cambridge Rise to many more people in your city?
Well, first, I think when we rolled the first lottery, the lottery for 130 single caretakers out, I think we got a lot of like, this is great, but what about us, right? We're not single, we're in a two-headed household, like, it's really hard for us too. And so the feedback was like, really, from the beginning, when are you doing more? And it was like, so I had that in the back of my mind, that there is so much need. It's only 130 single caretakers. How do we help more people? That was always in the back of everyone's mind in this collective effort to do more. And none of us really had to wait for kind of data, right? We kind of could see it and hear from the narratives from these families what they were doing with the $500, right? They were literally using the money in the ways that they wanted to help their families, right? There were some families who, said that they used the money, towards paying back back rent, paying for loans, paying for to go on a vacation with their family, to buy a new bed frame, right? There's no programs for bed frames, right? Like, they were able to like spend that extra money and use it in the way they see fit. So quickly, we knew that there were some resources coming to the local governments in the form of ARPA, American Rescue Plan money, and Cambridge got like 80 million. And, collectively, we said we should use a chunk of this to expand our program. And to be honest, there was not really much resistance to doing that. I think all along we've had a hard time in the city saying, okay, we can use like our taxpayer money to use, to do a guaranteed income. I'm still working on it. Hopefully one day that's my goal, to use our local money, dollars, tax money, to do a guaranteed income. So far it's been philanthropy efforts, right? And it's been this ARPA money that's been allocated to say you can use it for you can use it for something like this. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of like why we expanded. It was, we knew it was a really practical, easy way for the government, and I say it in the doc, like to say, look, we trust you, we see you. What else are we going to do with this money? And in a place like Cambridge, which because of all the wealth we have and the labs and the biotech and Harvard, MIT, we can do a lot. We have money to do a lot with, and so I kind of made the argument, and I pushed my colleagues along to do the same, that this is an easy thing we can do to make it more widespread and to have more families be able to participate.
Thank you very much. Aurielle, I want to thank you again for helping to co-produce such a moving documentary. What you shared was visceral. I'm sure you saw a lot more that didn't necessarily make it into the film, and hopefully everybody in this room will eventually be able to see the full film. But could you please share a little bit of the most compelling or emotionally charged or eye-opening narratives, and what those stories and narratives told you, what could guaranteed income mean if so many more families were able to experience that?
Well, there were so many compelling stories that were part of the film and didn't even make it into the film, that the biggest challenge we had was just how to fit everything into it. You saw Portia's and John's stories, who were super compelling. And the folks in Gainesville that we followed, which is called Just Income, which focuses on formerly incarcerated individuals who are just coming out of prison. Their stories were also compelling in the sense of, you have people who are just getting out, who are typically given, $50. That's it. And then you're just told to go off and figure it out on your own. But with the guaranteed income of $500 a month, we saw people who were able to really, have the chance to, figure out, okay, I want to find a way to get back to my family. There was one person, David, in the film, who was living at a homeless shelter. And with the help of the guaranteed income program, he was able to move from a homeless shelter to, back home to his family. And a lot of people who were using the money to pay for probation fees. And something that I didn't know until doing this film was that in the state of Florida, you have something called jail rent. You have to literally pay for being incarcerated. And if you can't pay that, then that, will build up against you, and you eventually have to pay that. And it was just astonishing to see how much, we didn't know going into this. And also how, as things were changing, different policies were being created, especially down in Florida too, where voters' rights were also for people who were incarcerated, were also being repealed. Having that guaranteed income gave people the power to, you know, negotiate their position and like find just means to, you know, figure out their next move when their floor is being ripped from underneath them. And so that idea of a safety net is just, it is really, really important, especially in the state of where the policies that we're dealing with now, that Mayors for Guaranteed Income is pushing hard to challenge with, you know, guaranteed income. It is a really powerful tool to just, you know, it provide you some breathing room, but also to have support when you're dealing with some of the with crises, really. So that's long roundabout response to your answer, but yeah, there were a lot of compelling stories that we came across.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you know, we've got 330 million Americans. I'm sure every single person's life is compelling. Yeah. Nearly 60 million people in poverty. Yeah. And that's where guaranteed income can cut through so much of the complexity. We don't have to reduce or simplify anybody's life. We could see that no person is disposable, and everybody, I haven't talked to anybody that couldn't use a little extra income. Tiffany, thank you for your service with Mayors for a Guaranteed Income. I want to ask you, because you have worked with municipalities from across the country. I know you started in your position relatively recently, but you and Mayors for a Guaranteed Income, you've now worked with municipalities all across the country, getting guaranteed income done for the families that need it. What have you learned about some of the common misconceptions and hurdles out there, and some of the lessons that maybe you could share about how to get across those barriers and maybe even vanquish some of those myths in local communities?
Well, one of the most misconceptions that we hear often is if people receive these monthly payments, they're going to work less. That's rooted in racism, one. But two, if you watch the film, all you saw was people working and working hard and still not being able to make ends meet. Michael Tubbs, who started Mayors for Guaranteed Income, he implemented the first guaranteed income pilot in Stockton, California during the pandemic. And the research there showed that more than twice the recipients found full-time employment because they were part of the program, because they had the resources. Just a little cash went a long way where they could invest in their aspirations and their dreams and go back to school and, you know, pay for childcare so they can work more. If we take a look at the child tax credit, that was a federal guarantee income, and it also allowed parents to work more. It reduced unemployment for parents, and that's because they were able to pay for childcare. So these misconceptions are just not true. And for us, we are continuing to provide data. Most of our pilots that we fund, we include research in every one of those pilots, and because we know that these conversations will come up and we want to be able to combat those racist statements with data. And obviously data is not just the only solution, but it's something that some people need to make sure that they feel like this is a good investment in their money.
Thank you. It's very important to be able to see and have these real-world examples of people using money to do really important things in their lives so that they can thrive, they can take care of their families and communities. I'm coming to you now, Jessica. Ready? So guaranteed income can do a lot of great things quickly, but it is not the cure-all. We know that people do need more than money to solve the problems in their lives, and social infrastructure includes more than just cash assistance. I'm wondering if you could talk about what you think really works for families to have a suite of programs lifting them up, allowing them to succeed. What are the priorities that policymakers and communities should be fighting for alongside guaranteed income so that people really get everything they deserve?
So just for context, I work for an organization called Up Together, and we have been giving various forms of unrestricted cash for more than 2 decades. And we've learned a lot from the families that we've given cash to. And I think the 2 critical pieces, the cash is one, but also their choice and their ability to use cash how they want to. And so guaranteed income is one specific way where we're giving cash. There's no strings attached. You get to use it however you want. And I think that's the most important, where we honor people's agency. We know that they know, we trust that they know what they need more than anyone else could say. And so a lot of the programs that we've created over many decades, a lot based in racist stereotypes, have this very paternalistic, very we know best what you need, and there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through to prove your worthiness, to prove your deservedness, to prove that you're working hard. And what if we undid a lot of that? So if we think about federal TANF benefits, for example, which is a form of cash assistance, there's so many hoops that families have to go through to receive that cash. And as soon as they start to do better, they're penalized and their benefits are immediately cut. And so what if we eliminated some of those penalties? What if we trusted people to use the dollars and move forward as they see fit? The child tax credit is another one. We're already seeing the effects of what happens when it goes away. In 2021, we had all of this money that was poured into the tax credit. It lifted many families and children in particular out of poverty. And now that that has gone away, poverty rates for children in particular have gone up more than double. And so these are, and the child tax credit doesn't have as many of these hoops. It's just sort of, here's money in the tax code, we trust you with it, as we do for those at the other end of the income spectrum, where there's tax benefits all the time. You're trusted, and you get these breaks, and you have this money, and you can do what you want with it. And so I think from Up Together's perspective, a lot of it is about how we're doing it. And the how is about trusting people and giving them the choice and understanding that they can determine what they need for their family, and that then has a benefit in their community. I'll share one story from Lita, who was also part of Cambridge Rise. Up Together was a partner in that project. It's a Mayors for Guaranteed Income pilot. And she shared her story at the press conference for Phase 2 in Cambridge. And she talked about how when she first started getting the dollars, it was amazing for her to drive to work and not have to worry about running out of gas on the way to work. And then she said, over a little bit of time, I realized me and my daughter really need therapy, and so she started investing in therapy for her and her kid. And then she said, I started to notice that I could call my friends again. And so I think the money is really important, but it's really the catalyst to these much more important things about our connectivity, our ability to dream, our ability to be in relationship with each other and have our dreams come true. And so how do we shift the way we approach cash for society is a lot of what we have to do differently.
Thank you. Yeah, I struggle a lot with discussions of cash and how we should be approaching it. And I think that's going to get into our final bonus question for everybody on the panel today, at least from me anyways. It's going to be about addressing or a little bit of how you address common new arguments about guaranteed income. I know that there have been programs that have been live for several years now, so the arguments that you may get now perhaps have evolved over time. Mayor Siddiqui, how about we start with you? What kind of arguments do you still get about guaranteed income, and how do you address those?
I think the number one thing I get is how are you going to make this sustainable on a local level, right? And again, I think it has to be a collective effort. I think we want to bring back the child care tax credit, right? We have to make sure our state and federal government are partners in this work as well. And I think that's a challenge. I will say that I have had great conversations with Congresswoman Presley, and who has been super supportive, along with Rep. McGovern, and I think they've kind of said that this is so important, right? Unfortunately, we have a number of individuals, namely the Republican Party, who are against something like this. And, the reasons are, what Joe Manchin mentioned was people are going to spend it on drugs and alcohol, right? Like, it's these racist tropes that that just exist, and how do we combat that narrative? And so I've been really thinking about the narrative change work that we need to do. I've been thinking about, the fact is, like, this is what the data shows. We have data, we have stories, where's the political will, right? It's amazing how much the Mayors for Guaranteed Income numbers have grown, right? It started from one mayor to now there's over 100 in the network. I think about our own program, and I forgot to mention this earlier, but we've gone from 130 single caretaker parents to now, a little over 1,900 families participating, and that's about 6,500 residents. And so I know even with this last round, there were many families who needed it, right? But it was the first non-lottery program. It was anyone who was eligible, and we had specific eligibility criteria, but it was at 250% of the federal poverty guidelines, right? There are individuals who made maybe 100 more, right? Or 1,000 more, or 1,200, 1,400, you name it, who weren't eligible, right? But they were so in need. And so I am constantly thinking about how we're going to expand. So to the naysayers, I just go back, like, we're actually helping our families stay stable, right? And that's really important. We're hearing directly from folks like Lita, folks in Portia, how they continue to become more stable as a result. So I'll stop there. I mean, I think we have there's a lot of work ahead of us, but that's why we need collective organizations, agencies helping us.
Thank you very much. Jessica, what are some recent arguments you've heard about guaranteed income, and how have you addressed them?
I mean, I think one that we get a lot is that it costs too much. And I think about how much money we spend policing and checking about people and the benefits they get. And if we spent the same amount of resources with our existing tax code, as Matt Desmond talks about in his book, Poverty by America, if we actually just enforce the tax code we have now on the wealthy, we would have plenty of money to redistribute and invest in people's wealth and time. And I'm thinking about some of these other stories that have come up. A mom in one of our pilots who was in shelter when she joined our Trust and Invest Collaborative study, which is about getting more data, because there are the people that feel like they need the data. And she, because of the $500 a month for 18 months, has now gone to school and is stably housed. $9,000 in 18 months is not a significant investment in the large scale of the wealth that we have in this country, but to a family can really shift their whole trajectory. And so I think it's about reprioritizing, and how do we have conversations that help people see the ways that investments have been received by them and allowed them to make it where they are. This belief that we've all pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps is one that is very entrenched here, and is going to take a lot to knock down, but I feel like it's a big barrier.
Thank you for that. Aurielle, how have you been addressing arguments against guaranteed income?
Well, a really interesting argument that has just been kind of thrown out throughout the course of even filming was, well, why should we give people money when they have a nice car, they have a home, you can see, someone has a bunch of books, all of these materialistic things that kind of prevent people from realizing that, hey, okay, well, if you have a car, you're going to need money. You're going to need money to put gas into that car, and especially as gas prices and everything has risen because of inflation, if you don't have money to put gas into that car, it's going to be worthless. And so something that one of the participants in the film, who is based in St. Paul, She says, if you give me enough money to fill up my tank, I'll show you how far I can go. And I feel like that really encompasses, you know, what this is, giving people the chance to do what is already inside of them to achieve their goals. And so I think the narrative work is really important to challenging these stereotypes that's rooted in racism, you know, and prevents folks from achieving their dreams, their birthright. And I think that having more conversations like this and doing what we're with the Guaranteed Income Works Tour, where we're screening this film in different cities, including the ones that were part of the film, it's been really amazing to see how that has shifted the perspective, being able to see it in these terms of, you know, it's basic. It's pretty basic once you, it's not that complicated once you kind of have a visual tool like this. So the storytelling aspect, I think, is very, very important to change the narrative and pushing this policy out there.
Thank you. And Tiffany, what kind of arguments are you taking down?
So I feel like they already answered the question really well, but I'll just hit the bullet points for you. I think storytelling, the narrative change work needs to continue. Our national tour is doing that. We're hoping to hit 50 cities by the end of next year. I'll stick around and give you the website in case you want to learn more about that. And then making sure we continue to do the research to provide the data for our pilot programs. And finally, the government funding, when you have the political will, like you said, you can find the money. And one suggestion would be, let's make sure everybody's paying their fair share. Let's tax the wealthiest people in this nation, and maybe that's where we can find some of the funding.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes. Collapse for taxing the wealthy. I just want to, remind folks, imagine the U.S. has about a $22 trillion economy. It's grown by trillions of dollars over the past many years. How does it happen? Where does the money come from? How does an economy grow? In the simplest of terms, you print more money and you put it to work. We can print more money. We cannot print back the time wasted suffering. Justice delayed is justice denied. So I hope we see guaranteed income for everybody in our lives. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Mayor Siddiqui, Jessica Ridge, Aurielle, Akerele, Tiffany Bradley. You've been fantastic. Audience, you've been great to moderate and work with. Please follow up. These people, they want to help you. I want to help you. Everybody, have a great evening.
Thanks, Eliza.
All right, everybody. Thank y'all. Let's give ourselves another round of applause for a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful first day of the conference. We have wrapped it up, y'all. We have wrapped it up.